Hey, Renee. Renee,
Ma'am, yes,
were
ma'am.
you first on?
No, Gina was on when I got on.
Okay, so Gina, do you have the capability of sharing your screen and stuff?
I think so. Let me see. Hold on.
I just want to make sure before I jump off.
Okay. Can you see it?
No.
Hold on, let me try again.
Okay. Oh, it looks like I can do it. Hold on. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. All right, I'm just gonna mute myself then.
Okay, sounds
right.
good. Hi, Renee.
Okay, hon. Bye.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Renee, can you hear me? Okay, how should I get started right at 11 or do you usually wait a few minutes?
I don't, but that's me.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Usually people are more forgiving than I am, so
Okay. I'll give it, yeah, we'll see. I'll give it a few minutes, but not too
yeah.
much after that. Okay. Okay. Can everybody hear me? And if you can turn on your video just for a quick second, that would be great. However, if you're in your jammies and you don't want to, or you can't, that's okay too. I just wanted to, there's only a few people on, so I want to say hi, possible.
Hello.
Hi, and can you hear me, Emma?
Happy New
Yes.
Year.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, let's see. Elsie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Everyone can hear me okay? Okay. I've got Renee on here with me, who's a professional at Zoom. I am not that great, but I'm going to try my best. So I have found when I teach these classes, it's easy to share my screen this way, but I want to make sure everybody can see the slides. Can everybody see them?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think we probably have people of all different levels on this call. Can you raise your hand if you're in under 2 years for me? Okay. I don't have screens on everyone else, but
They
okay.
can raise their virtual hand.
Virtual hand. Yeah, if you don't want to be seen, that's okay. I totally get it. I'm an introvert. I don't always love being on camera. Okay, great. So if you've taken a class with me before, you will know that I tend to go a little rogue. So I will go over the material, but I tend to talk about my experience that I've been through, and sometimes I bypass a little bit of the information. If you want me to talk about something that you see that I haven't addressed, just let me know. I'm happy to. I've been in the real estate market for 18 years. I've had the wonderful opportunity of working 2 very different markets. I started my career in the Berkeley, Oakland, East Bay market, built it up there, had a very successful career, and decided to switch it up and move back to Santa Cruz County. I used to live here in my very early 20s. But moved back here when my husband got a job opportunity, and that was about 9 years ago. So when I came to Santa Cruz County, I didn't know one person. And I really thought that I would be just surfing and being a mom and building up my business very slowly. And in fact, that's not what happened. Because of the market I came from and all the systems and reviews that I worked so hard to get online, once I went active in Santa Cruz County, my phone never stopped ringing. And I think it's because in this county at the time, it's a small county, so people know each other and it's a real referral-based business. I think there was an opportunity that I found myself grasping onto that a lot of people weren't paying attention to, and that was online reviews. So it really helped build my business rather quickly, but it was also very hard. And so I feel for you newbies, because 9 years ago was almost like I had to rebuild my business off of meeting people for the first time, online leads, open houses, and I hadn't done that for quite some time. So I feel for you, and I know what it takes to be successful in this market and in different markets. Let's see a little bit about me. Like I said, I've been in real estate for 18 years. Most of those years were direct sales, but I did start my career as an assistant to a top producer in Berkeley, because I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing before I got licensed. Not that you have to do that. I do think coaching is a good idea though, because I think too many people jump in and don't quite know what they're doing, and you can really make a lot of mistakes on someone else's dime. And I also got to step away and do management for a couple years at a different brokerage. And that was incredible. It was a great experience. And it made me realize how much I love sales and how much I loved working for myself. And so I got back in a couple of years ago. So I have this really dynamic resume and career, and I love helping people, and I'm really open. So I'm not one of those agents that keep things to themselves. If you have any questions, I'm pretty much an open book. So with that, I guess we'll dive in. Okay, so And Renee, if you can help me, if you see anyone raise their hand, I don't even know if I see that, by the way, if I see the virtual hand raising, there's not that many people on, so you can also just, use your speaker and interrupt. That's fine too. So today we are talking about seller and staging strategies. When I went over this material, I was kind of like, why are we coaching to a buyer's market? Because y'all know we are not in a buyer's market right now. But when I talked to Elaine, my manager, she said, look, we will be, and we certainly want to coach to it. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because I think what happens here is that we've had a really good lucrative market for the last handful of years. And that's when you see people kind of join in and get their license, and maybe they've done a deal for their neighbor or, somebody on their soccer team or whatever. And then the market starts to change, and that's when it gets hard. And that's also when we see a lot of people fall off. So if you want to make this a career, then learning this way and treating this market almost like it's a buyer's market is not a bad idea, because this stuff is really going to give you the foundation you need to be able to thrive when the market does change, and it will. And I will tell you, I got licensed in 2005. I left the team I was on and went independent, and it was a very lucrative year. And then about 3 years later, we had the crash. And I wish that I had had some of these strategies in place. I wish that I had had coaching, and I wish that I had a stronger foundation, because going through those few years, again, I was in the Berkeley market, so we bounced back pretty fast, but going through those few years, it was a struggle, and there was a lot of tears, and there was a lot of frustration. And I think this right here is going to give you a good foundation of dealing with sellers in both types of markets. So we are going to talk from a buyer's market perspective, but I'm going to also talk to you about what's happening today, at least in the Bay Area market. I don't know if I think everyone's from the Bay Area, so that's good. Okay. So perspective on pricing strategies. When the market shifts towards a buyer's market, the listings sit. Don't let that happen to your sellers. Number one, in a buyer's market, real estate becomes a commodity. That is true. You'll see a lot more listings right now. We have very little inventory all over the Bay Area, and it's causing some havoc, and it's causing a lot of buyer competition, but it will shift, and it always does. Number two, only properties in good condition and priced right will sell in a buyer's market. I think that depends on where the house is. Number three, price can correct bad condition, but condition won't correct bad price. That's really true. Price can correct bad condition, but condition won't correct bad price. Number four, correct pricing represents 80% of your marketing effort. Okay, so I want to talk really quick about this market. So we're going to switch back and forth. I have a house right now that I just had to drop the price on. Pretty crazy, right? We priced it at the highest part of what the comps were showing. The view is phenomenal, but the house needs a lot of work. Not crazy amount of work, but it doesn't show well. And so we've had to drop the price. And so the conversation that I have in a seller's market or in a buyer's market with a client is, look, if we don't sell at a certain time frame, we're going to have to talk about dropping the price. I always have that conversation in any market, because I want to set the expectation with my seller that there is a possibility it might not sell at this high price or the price that we are going on at. And so in any market, you want to make sure you're controlling and managing expectations for your clients. It's better in the long run, and they will appreciate you for it. So that's a conversation I always have. Another thing that I've learned over the years is, and especially in this county, it doesn't happen as much as in the East Bay, or at least when I was there. Clients, it's probably because they have more access to information. Clients have so much access to information right now. When I go into a listing presentation or go to talk to somebody, they already know they've already looked at Zillow, they've looked at Redfin, they've talked to people, they've seen comps, the information's at their fingertips. And they also have an idea of what they want, right? So those are all things we talk about out the gate. We have a very direct, honest conversation. And that really helps too, because it keeps expectations. You can manage expectations that way. And usually people will be honest with you. Sometimes you get the people who are not, and you know, that it is what it is. Okay, am I going too fast? Is this okay? Speed? Yeah?
Yes, it's okay.
That's good. Okay, if it's not, let me know. Sometimes I roll through this stuff and I just keep going. Okay, perspective on pricing strategies. Your role in a buyer's market. When houses sold in a matter of days, agents were undervalued, but now customers need you for your pricing strategies, market knowledge, buyers, fiduciary commitment, knowledge of financing options, and negotiation skills. Okay, I'm going to disagree with this a little bit. If you want to keep a client loyal and a client referring you business, then they will always need you for those things, even if the house sells quickly. Okay, so another expectation, right? So when I go into a client presentation like this year or last year, I would tell people, look, it's going to move kind of fast. We should get an offer within 7 days. That's what our market's showing if it's priced correctly. But then I also talk to them about how to get them the most money, about what happens when we are in escrow, how I vet the buyers and how I vet their lending and make sure that they are going to be a strong buyer. If there is concerns, maybe they're our only offer, just happened to me. I had a little bit of concerns about the buyers and actually their agent. I expressed that concern to my client so that they knew it could possibly fall out, which it did. So these are things and conversations we have to have in any kind of market. But in a buyer's market, buyers are going to have more power. They're going to have more negotiation power. And so that is the conversation that you have to have with your clients. Okay. Perspective on pricing strategies. What are the opportunities? Well, the opportunities is to show what you know, right? So the opportunities are you can walk in as an agent and say, look, here is the data I have collected for you to let you know why I think we should list in this range or why I think this should be your list price. Don't just show up and, you know, say that you had a feeling about it. You want to let people know what you know, and data really helps people, even people who don't like data. It's still a good way to go because they want to know and be confirmed that the information you are giving them is correct. Opportunities for sellers. Well, perspective on pricing strategies. Okay, so sellers right now, what's interesting in this market is sellers want, you know, the top dollar for their house, even if it's not really worth it. Now, in a seller's market, you can kind of roll the dice sometimes and see if they can get it. If they feel very strongly that they need to try for that high amount, but you need to, again, manage expectations and tell them, hey, let's go for it. We can try, but we might have to reduce the price in 2 or 3 weeks. In a buyer's market, I'm not sure I would roll the dice, and I would tell them why. If we have to drop price, you're probably going to get even less for your house. That's usually what the data shows. So oftentimes you can pull past sales that confirm that. So it just, you know, if you're in a buyer's market, you don't really want to roll the dice. In a seller's market, you can roll the dice a little bit more. Get ready, get set, go. Shift happens. Maximize your effectiveness as a consultant to your sellers. Get ready, study your market. Man, you guys, when I first got into this market and when I moved here, I drove around. I pulled past sales. I would drive by the houses. I would learn how to say the streets. I knew when I came to this county that we had septics. I took a septic class. I did everything I could to be prepared. one thing I did do, and I think every new agent should do this, is when I moved to this county, I found a home inspector, a title company, and a lender, and I took them all out for coffee. They saw my face. I made, friends with them and told them that I would be sending my business their way. And so when I did get a client, it didn't look like I didn't know anything about the area or didn't have contacts in the area. And that really helped. So I think as a new agent, that's something you should do as well. Or if you haven't done it yet, do it. Studying the market, I think it's important. I'm the person who's not great with memorizing numbers. Do you know that agent who can tell you what sold in the neighborhood for the last 3 months? I don't have that. It's not in me. So every time I go into a listing presentation, if I know them or not, I really look at the market. I'm a visual person. If I can't see it online, I got to drive it, or maybe I want to drive it just to be comfortable with, oh yeah, it was that house on the corner that's blue and white. That stuff is really important to me. And that's how I learn and retain information. So however you retain information, study your market, have it at your fingertips. There's nothing wrong with going into a listing presentation and someone says, oh, did you see that house that sold around the corner? No, but I have it right here. Let me look it up, or I don't recall it. Let me look it up. Pre-qualify your sellers, update your listing presentation. Okay, pre-qualify sellers, have a conversation before you go into the listing presentation or before you start running information for them. Call them up, ask as many questions you can, and make sure you listen, right? I think what happens with new agents is that they're maybe a little bit more insecure. And so they start just kind of trying to sell themselves to the client. Just listen, just talk to them. I always tell people, just talk to them like they're your friend, like you're at a coffee shop and you guys are talking about what their next steps are and what they're trying to accomplish. Ask those kind of questions. Because of the way I'm marketed, I get a lot of calls of people who had bad experiences with their past agent, and then they, find me. So it is me asking a lot of questions about what needs didn't get met and what they're looking for. I'm at a point in my career where I can say, I don't think I'm the right match for you. Here's another person. And I have done that and I will do that. But I know when you're just starting out, that's a little harder to do. But just have a conversation, ask a lot of questions and listen and take notes so that when you do show up at their house, you can say, oh yeah, I remembered on our conversation, you said that. Once you start getting busier, this kind of stuff, you might forget, oh, what was our conversation? And you didn't take any notes. Take some notes, if you can, and get the right price. Pricing's it's so important really in any market, right? Because you don't want things to just sit around. It just takes up too much time. Really look at the data and really have that conversation with people of, if we can't get this price, then we need to go to plan B. And this is when we will do it and what it looks like, and really get people on board with that. Okay. It's important. Some agents will they want the listing. They've decided that having the listing is more important than it actually selling. I get it. I mean, I don't know, so I haven't done that in so long that I don't know if I would do it now, but motivation is a big deal with sellers. Are they motivated? Sometimes you'll come across a seller who says, well, we don't really have to sell. Well, okay. So find out if that's truthful. And then you realize you don't have a lot of motivation there. It's probably going to be more money and time than it's worth, in all honesty. So make sure you have the conversation. Any
Gina?
questions? Yeah.
Oh, any questions? Gina?
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of that you can never underprice a home, but you can definitely overprice a home. Would you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I come from a market where we underpriced everything and we would get multiple offers for $100,000 over asking. Now they're getting multiple offers for like $500,000 over asking. I do think you have to be a little careful with that strategy. So I think that like right now we're seeing a lot of buyer fatigue, right? So I've seen people really price it low, hoping for the multiple offers to organically raise it up, and they don't quite get what they want. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. If it's a house, Renee, you know, like if it's, you know, in a neighborhood that you just, the West Side, where everything is selling right now, right? You can certainly go a little bit lower and you probably will get multiple offers to raise that price. But if you have a client who says, hey, I need $1 million for this house and I can't go any lower, well, then be careful about pricing it at $899. You might not get $1 million. It just depends on the neighborhood and the home itself. So, but I do think you're right, Renee. I think it's always a little bit better to go lower than higher, because once you start lowering that price, you know, if you're in a buyer's market, especially, you might have to, your client might get a lot less money for it. So that's for sure.
So I have a question. So in pricing, for example, if it's a 3-bedroom house and people who are looking for a 3-bedroom house could start from 1,400,000 or something, and then the actual price, market price, could fall under 1.7. In that case, would it be better to would it be better around placing it at 1.5? That way it falls under the search for people who are searching. So usually they have a cap when they search, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. Because so we used to always talk about pricing it at 1,649, because the people who are approved at 1,650 might, you know, need to be able to find it or search. Yeah. The information is so much out there now that I don't know if that really matters too much. Here's what does matter. So if I'm approved for 1,650 and I know that we could probably go to 1,675, right? Because we all know that every $10,000 is about $50 more in mortgage. So I know I can go to 1,675, but if something is priced at 1,68, then I'm probably going to think in this market, oh God, that's going to get a lot of offers and I'm not going to even try. Right? Or I'm going to wait to see what happens. Now, in San Jose versus over here, and I'm from San Jose originally, but I haven't sold a house in San Jose in a little while. Here, you know, you're just going to look at the comps. And if you have a house for 168, that's worth 168, you know, but you're trying to get multiple offers, well, you have to see how everything's moving in this market. What are the days on market for that price point? What's the house that is sold in the neighborhood? Did they have multiple offers? You might want to call the agent and find out. That's good information to bring to your listing presentation. You have to take, I know right now we're having a lot of buyer fatigue, so you have to take that into consideration. Where is it located? Is it oceanfront? Is it not? Where is it at? Is it in an area that's moving fast? Is it not? These are all things and data that you're going to bring to your client and share with them. Typically, when you start having a conversation and showing the data, you're going to be able to get a feeling about the risk tolerance your client has and what they're looking for. And typically it's the most money, but it also needs to move quickly and be like as less painful as for everyone as possible. And you want to gather all that information and then have a conversation. If you are in an area where things are getting priced low and you're seeing multiple offers and it's going for a lot higher, then and that approach seems to be working in the market you're in, then maybe that is the approach that you take. So it really depends on what's happening in the specific area. Again, in our county, in Santa Cruz County, we have little pockets and they're all kind of different. So you wouldn't do maybe something you would do in Scotts Valley in, say, the Seabright area, right? So I assume that the San Jose, that area has probably little pockets too. Like I know my parents live in South San Jose. That is moving like hotcakes right now, which is crazy. They've lived there forever. But that might be different for, say, the like Rose Garden area. I'm kind of making it up. I haven't been in San Jose in a long time. I haven't lived there for a while. So I'm kind of making up the neighborhood. But yeah, so it just kind of depends, but you really got to pull the data and pay attention. Another thing to look out for, you guys, is too, when we start to see the shift from the seller's market to the buyer's market, right? And that's a subtle little nuance of things that starts to happen. Houses sit a little bit longer. We start to see the amount of buyer offers start to minimize. Interest rates might start going up. When we see inflation, if that starts to kind of go up, and I know they're really watching it right now, we might see a shift in the market. So these are just things you have to pay attention to. Does that answer your question, Suja? Because I know I
Yes.
kind of.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And also for the new people too, always reach out to somebody in your office. I'm happy to be of help if you are going on a listing presentation and you're trying to collect the data and understand it. I know when I first got in, sometimes the data, I was like, this graph doesn't make sense to me, or this doesn't, so just talking it out with somebody who's been around would be really helpful. And what I have found at Keller Williams is people are pretty helpful here. So that's nice. You guys are hearing my dogs play and I can't stop that. So hopefully it doesn't get too loud. We have a puppy who's a monster. Okay. Getting the most out of this experience. Hey, you guys. Shh. Okay. What do we have here? The prisoner has to be there, doesn't want to be there, and doesn't know. Oh, this is, I guess, for you guys, like what kind of agent you are, the vacationer, the explorer. This is so interesting. Okay, so I'm a data junkie and I love coaching and I love classes and I jump into it all. What I have been realizing about myself is that I have to stop doing a lot of that because I'm just collecting data and then I don't do the things I need to be doing. It's almost like reading a book for me. And I think when they talk about this, for example, I have showed up to these Zoom classes and been doing 20 other things. I don't have my video on. I'm doing 94 different things and I'm not really paying attention. And I think you have to decide, especially for me this year, I always pick a word of the year, and my word is intentional this year, is being like, why am I there? Just show up. It's the same thing with having a conversation with a potential client. Stop talking and listen, and show up to these classes and be present and connected, So I think that's what this little slide is saying. So they want you to pick the explorer who listens attentively, then participates fully in the discussions, asks meaningful questions, and contributes, arrives to class on time and returns promptly from the breaks. I have been known not to do that. Adopts a posture of acceptance, takes notes in their manual for future reference, respects the different learning styles and opinions of others. Okay, well, there you go. Hopefully you guys are all explorers. Studying your market. Okay, be the local market economist. One good thing that I did that was a good habit for me is that I created a spreadsheet. And every month I put my stats in certain areas so that I can just look at the stats, pay attention, and I have that in the back of my head. So when I go to a specific area, I can say, well, the average price for this house right now is this. I just kind of know that information going into a meeting. So I think that's good. And however you learn, however you can retain. I used to work for a realtor way back in the day, and he used to print every MLS for every week. He would print out the MLS, and this guy was a huge top producer back then. and he would print out the MLSs, he'd go see them, and then he would wait for them to sell, and then he would have his assistant write the sales price on it and put it back in front of him. And that's how he would learn the information. It was kind of crazy, but it worked for him. Preview more properties. That's kind of weird right now, isn't it? I know that I was just talking to somebody in title the other day and was saying that I haven't put a house on tour and I haven't been on tour in quite some time. And there's varying reasons for it. But when you're really getting into this industry, it's so important to see homes and to walk through them. If at the very least, when you go into a listing presentation, when you do get that call, you can say, oh yeah, that house, yeah, I was in it. You know, it had a funky kitchen or, you know, whatever. So the more properties you can see, the better. And the more relationships you can make with listing agents is really good too. So if you just go to the property to say hi to the listing agent, introduce yourself, that will pay off in the long run for you. Study your market, analyze the MLS. Okay, we just talked all about that. So yeah, I don't want to go over that one again. We already talked about that. Analyze the MLS, get the big picture, taking a shifting market into consideration. So again, we talked about shifting markets and what that kind of, when you start to see certain things change, you know, we might be shifting a little bit. It doesn't mean we're going directly into a buyer's market though. It could just mean we're leveling out and that it's getting a little bit more fair. That's all. So you just have to keep talking to people. They've got on our MLS, they do a YouTube channel where they do, I think it's weekly or probably monthly talks, and they've brought economists on. It's actually really good and just is a real snapshot of some stuff going on. So that might be something you want to look up. Study your market and use formulas and graphs. This is a good idea. I mean, you get some people who are visual learners and they really like those graphs. And then you get other people who really just want to see the data. It's nice to have both in your listing presentation so that you can speak to both. Sometimes I find couples, there's be like one's an engineer and one's the artist. So you're trying to speak to both types of people. But it's good to have different types of graphs and illustrations in your listing presentation. You can get those in a variety of areas. And I subscribe to Aculus, which you can get those reports on the MLS. I think you get 3 free reports. I just pay the money and get all the reports, but that's one way to do it.
What is the software you said again?
It's called Aculus. If you go onto the MLS,
Okay.
I think it's on the right-hand side at the very bottom. It says Aculus Reports. Click on that. It's ACULIST. Click on that and you do get 3 free ones, but you can also pay to get more. And look, they provide a ton of information and graphs and everything for you. So you can start there. Renee, do you have any other places you get graphs or no? Okay. Yeah, sometimes your office might supply them for you too.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, this is kind of fun. I was looking at this earlier. I'm like, oh, I like this. Study your market. So they have these little algorithms. Active listings plus pending listings divided by pendings is your activity index. That could maybe impress somebody if you gave them that information about their specific area. The absorption rate, number of active homes on the market divided by the number of homes sold in the last 30 days. Now, again, these are things that are already done for you, so you don't have to do it. But if you wanted to like learn how the information, how you come about the information, the answer, then these are the algorithms. And you could literally put that in your listing presentation if you wanted to. Study your market again. Formulas, graphs, this is all stuff that's been done, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Here is an example of a graph that they're using. Career growth initiative. I don't know what this is. Listing management, agent trend, GCI, listings, pipeline. You know, when I look at something like this, I think to myself, it's good to have goals for listings. And how do you get listings when you're a young agent just getting into the business? Well, you ask for them. You call around, you call your sphere, you ask people, are you looking to sell? You get a call list. I know Old Republic Title right now, you can just get call lists. It's like 3 cents a number. You start calling around, you start doing open houses. Maybe you go door knocking. Maybe you send out letters or handwritten cards. Have a system and continue to work it though. Don't just work it once. You got to continue to work it and try to get a listing. Listings are where it's at, and doesn't matter which market. You get a listing, that's where it's at. And the reason being is because you get the marketing out of it. So if you get one listing, you should get another one. That's what I always tell people. Career growth initiative, listing appointments, listings taken, closings, profit.
Gina, this was something that we did a while ago when this class was put together. So you don't have to worry about it. It's something that they would, yeah. So
Okay, thanks, Renee. I was kind of like, I don't know how this ties in, but it's fine. We'll roll with it.
no, you don't need to.
Okay, thank you. Approaching sellers. Find the motivated. You can only afford to work with the very motivated. I think that's true, you guys. I think when sellers aren't motivated, what has happened to me in the past, I've worked with sellers who are not motivated, or I want to believe that they're motivated and they're not, and it's a waste of time. It really is. You think it's not, but it is. It's a waste of time. So find out when you're having that initial conversation with the seller, what is their motivation? And you can go from there. Pre-qualify your sellers before you make the listing appointment. Exactly. You get a listing lead, or maybe you met somebody at an open house at the grocery store or whatever. Have a conversation with them before you go to their house. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. If you know the right questions, you're trying to find out motivation. You're trying to, that's the biggest key, is why are they wanting to sell? And you want to find out if the price that they want makes sense or not. That's really important. It's not the first question I ask, but through the conversation, I'll find out what are they hoping to get? You know, what are they hoping to get? Approach sellers, update your listing presentation, tell the truth. You are not doing your sellers any favors if you're attempted to soften the blow in order to get the listing. We've seen this happen. You see agents kind of just go, they want way too much money, but I'm going to take it anyways. So you do want to be truthful, but you don't need to come off and, you know, I'm a pretty direct person, but I don't come off and just say, this is what it is. I show them the data and they usually get to the same conclusion as my conclusion through the conversation and through looking at data. Care enough about them to be strong up front and get the right price. Absolutely. You are not doing them a service if you go in and you fib. It doesn't serve anybody. So just be really honest. Yes.
Sorry. Pre-qualifying the previous page, I'm a pretty new agent. I just joined. Could you give us few questions?
Yeah.
What would you ask? That would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I say I get a lead or something for a seller, I will call them up, and my approach is I always go into it professional yet casual. So I talk to people like they're a friend, and I say, so I got, you know, it looks like you're wanting to sell. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. When are you thinking about selling? And then they'll, you know, oh, we're leaving to move to Oregon in 3 months. Oh, so you want to sell in 3 months? Okay, great. And so how have you talked to other agents? Am I your first agent? No, you're the first agent. We referred to you, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, great. That's wonderful. So you're looking to sell in 3 months, and why are you guys going to Oregon? You know, I own a house in Oregon. I love Oregon. What's making you want to move there? So that kind of question gets them going and talking about why they want to move to Oregon. It could be it's cheaper. they're looking for a place to retire. It could be they have grandkids there. You'll find that out in that discussion. And then that's pretty good indication of motivation. If it's, well, we're just kind of tired of California in the politics, or we're tired of California because of this. We don't really need to move, but we think it's probably best. Then I question the motivation a little bit. Okay. Because it's sometimes hard to beat California, even if things drive you crazy. Then I'm like, well, let's see. Right. So then we continue talking. I said, so have you looked online to see what your house is worth? Have you gone to Zillow? Oh yeah. Zillow says it's worth 2.5. Great. Okay. So is that what you're hoping to get? Is that you're trying to find out, do they believe that or not? Right? Do they believe Zillow? Do they think that that is what their house is worth? Some people might think, oh no, the house down the street only sold for 2. So I can't imagine ours is worth 2.5. Okay. Or some people will go, yeah, but I think it's worth more. Why do you think it's worth more? Tell me, are there things that you've done to the house that I can't see online? People might start talking about that, or they might just be like, well, I just want some tech guy to come over and buy it from over the hill. We get that one quite a bit, Renee. I don't know if you do, but I know I do. And I'm always like, okay. So I remind people that everybody has the same access to the same information. We are no longer in a time where buyers don't have the access that everyone else has. They can look at comps, they can see all the information. So thinking that you're just going to throw it on the market and get someone who doesn't care because they have a lot of FU money, I don't know, like that's kind of a long shot. Maybe if you've got oceanfront property, and maybe, but not, maybe not. So through that conversation, I'm finding out their belief systems, I'm finding out their motivation, and I'm finding out kind of where they're at in the process, how many agents they've talked to. Am I the only one? Am I the first one? Very casual. And then once I've had that kind of conversation and I feel good about it, I will set an appointment. Even if I don't feel good about it, I might set the appointment. There's nothing wrong with spending an hour out of your day to get the experience. So setting the appointment, going in, but maybe I'm hesitant. Maybe this isn't the right fit for me, or maybe I'm excited about it as an agent. So making the appointment is probably the very most important thing to do. Because if they are serious and they are motivated and you get in front of them, you have a better shot of securing the listing. So don't be afraid of that.
Okay.
Just go in. And I tell people, when you get into the house, you always give compliments first, even if it's a junker. You always go into the house and you say, hey, nice to meet you. Why don't you show me around? And you do a walkthrough of the house and you always give compliments. You might be taking notes of other things that need to be fixed or repaired or don't look well, but you always give the compliments. And I know people have different approaches with this kind of stuff. Some people come in with like guns a-blazing and they've got the full listing presentation and they have to sit down in a particular seat at the table. And I don't do any of that. So I come in and I'm really casual. I do have all the data. I have my listing presentation. I don't always pull it out right away. I like to talk to people and build that relationship before I do that. And you really just got to read the person and decide what kind of person are they. Some people aren't warm and fuzzy and they just want you to sit down and they want the data. Okay, that's fine too. I can roll.
Do you always bring the listing? Do you always bring the listing contract?
No. So Renee, you're going to hate me for this. I never bring a listing contract, but that's because I've been doing this for so long. It's a little bit different for me. If I was new, I would always bring the listing contract, always. Yeah. And I would try to get it signed before I left.
I had a situation just real quickly where someone called me and they said, I'd love you to come out and look at the house. And they said, and I'm not listing, I'm not ready to list, right? And this was in Salinas. I'm not ready to list, but I'd like you to come out and talk to you about the house. So I went out there and we talked and he looked at me and said, okay, I'm ready to list with you. And I had to say, "Huh, I didn't bring the listing." So trust me, I always bring the listing.
But Renee, bring your computer and pull it up right there
Eh?
and have them know.
Eh?
All right. Okay. So yeah, there you go. Bring the listing. It doesn't hurt to have a paper copy of the listing. It really doesn't. And she's very right, because you never know. It could always turn into that. I'm ready to list. If you walk away and he's ready to list, you might lose it. Someone else might be coming in behind you. So always bring it. That's a really good tip for sure.
Okay.
Until
Thank
you
you.
get to a place where you feel a little bit more comfortable or confident or whatever it is for you. I feel like, here's my take on it. As an 18-year veteran, they're lucky to work with me. That is literally how I feel. And I know that's pretty cocky and it's egotistical, but if I'm going to walk away and not have it signed, then they were never mine to begin with. And I'm okay with that. So, but I'm in a different place, right? I'm in a different place. So bring the listing contract with you. It's a really good tip. And don't, if you don't have your computer and you just have the contract, and you fill it in with a pen. Okay. Be old school. It's fine. Okay. Approach sellers, update your listing presentation. Okay. We already went through that. Leverage the media, clip out articles from the newspaper that support your position. Oh, I don't know. I think the newspapers tend to hype up things that may or may not be happening in our market. I think it's better just to bring the data personally. Back up the news stories with your own hard data. There you go. I guess if you have local stuff happening, maybe you want to do the newspaper there. I would probably stay, I don't know, I'd probably stay away from the newspaper, but I would certainly bring in data for sure. And remember, you guys, people are more interested in what you're going to do for them and not who you are. So don't bring a listing presentation that has a bunch of stuff about you. Okay. People can get a read on you. You can show them some things, but you don't need to come in and, make it all about you. Make it about them and make it about their house. Approach sellers, update your listing presentation, listen for responsiveness. This one took me a little while. I'm not a great listener. I've had to learn how to be a good listener. So slowing down the conversation, even if you're nervous, repeating things that they have said to make sure you're clear. That's another good tactic for listening. Keep them focused on their motivation. Some sellers may not be able to face reality and won't be able to list their home at the price needed to sell it. That again, we're managing expectations. If they are not willing to go at the price that the data is showing and they want to go higher, well, then I'm willing to do that if they're willing to go to plan B and change the price if it doesn't work. But that is a conversation that should absolutely be had before you list the house, okay? And by doing so, not only are you protecting them and managing expectations, but you're protecting yourself. And any agent who has experience is going to do this. So make sure, think about that when you go in, even as a new agent. Any agent is going to talk about, if it doesn't sell at this price, what are we going to do next? Okay. Approach sellers, update your listing presentation. You guys, I update my listing presentation a lot. I mean, it's always on hand. It's always ready to go if I needed a quick, fast one, but I'm always polishing them up. Or if there's a particular house that has I will make sure that my presentation is specific to that house. So granted, I could just print it and go, and I do have that at hand, but I do like to spend a little bit of time on it. And I like people to feel like it's not just this cookie cutter listing presentation, that I've actually thought about their house and I've thought about what would work for them. learning scripts. So I'm not a person, I don't like memorize a script and then say it verbatim to anybody, but I do like to look at scripts and I like to make it my own. And I really would get so annoyed as a new agent to do role playing, but I got to tell you, it does work. So if you've got someone in your office that you can do a little role playing with, or if you're just in your car and you do it yourself, practicing really does help. It just helps when you get into a situation that you're not used to, and you need to rely on that script or that language to get you through it. So try to do some role playing or just practice in your car when you're driving around. I think that's important, and it will help with your confidence. Anything that's going to help with your confidence, do it. Approach sellers, update your listing presentation, communicate effectively. Sure. Remember, listening is the biggest takeaway. Make sure you're listening. Approach sellers, update your listing presentation, be prepared to answer objections. This is a good one. So you guys can Google this, by the way. You can Google objections for anything that could come up. Oftentimes coaches will talk about your commission. Okay, I have to be honest, that doesn't really come up for me that often, right? That's like the least of people's concerns. And if it does come up as the first or second question, well, then that's an indication to you that you're dealing with somebody who probably doesn't have a lot of respect for your industry or what you do. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your head. But objections could be, there's so many things that could come up. Your commission, the time frame, your list price. I don't know. People come up with the darndest things, or they want your marketing done a certain way. I've gotten some really controlling clients who want to control the marketing. I don't let it happen, but I would probably say when I was a new agent that was probably a lesson I had to learn. But you can look this stuff up on Google. I think that Keller Williams has a ton of stuff on command for objections. So this is all stuff that you have access to and that you can practice and look at some answers so that you're prepared. Get the right price. Any questions so far? Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. No? Okay. Just unmute if you have a question and let me know.
I have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Denise.
Hi. Anyway, how have you worked with very, very business savvy clients?
I always go in knowing that they probably know more than me and that's okay. So I go in with a lot of data because they are data driven. And I go in with things that they might not be aware of. And how I find that out is, when's the last time they sold a house or they bought a house, and in what area? Because, they might be coming from different areas. They might not be used to our area. And I try to find out, again, same things, motivation, what's getting them to sell or to buy. And then going from that motivation point and trying to help them solve whatever it is that they're trying to solve. And if they're selling, it's always data driven, always. And then I'll talk about things with the data. Okay, so because we're in a seller's market, this is where the price range should be, and this is why. And I tell them maybe a past experience that I have with a recent sale. If it's a buyer's market, then I talk to them about being in the buyer's market and the challenges. People who have wealth tend to be a little bit easier to deal with in terms of how their house is presented. So that if they've got things to fix, or we need to paint some rooms, or we need to do something to make it look better, they tend to be okay with that a little bit more. Sometimes when people are in a little bit of a pickle or a bind, or living more on a budget, that stuff might be a little bit harder, so they might have to take a hit a little bit on price. But Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So
Okay.
data with business
Mhm.
people. That's what they're used to looking at. That's what they want to see. And
Mhm.
that makes them feel the most confident.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not sure if you can see me.
Who is this?
Tatiana.
Oh, I can't see you, but that's okay. Go ahead and answer your question.
I don't know. I don't know why. Well, so I want to address a question in regards to the commission.
Yeah.
So because there are so many agents, right, and you go to interview, to listing presentation, and always there are some objections for commission. And I heard a few times from seller like, well, other agent told me they will take this percentage or this. So as being a new agent, as much as I want to help that seller, but also I want to have a listing, right, rather than nothing. But I
Yeah.
don't want to work for really low. And all the scripts that we're doing, objections, how to reply to all this objection in regards to the commission. So I practice this, but still there's like, recently I signed a listing and, I agreed for 5%.
Mhm.
But I feel like there's so many agents who work for 2%, like 4%, even like 3.5%. I've seen on MLS someone is offering 1.5%, even like how that comes, like in that competition, like you don't want to lose the listing, but you don't want to work for cheap or like for nothing. So I
Yeah.
know you're in a situation that you're many years in the market, in the business, and you know, how do I put that? But it's like for new agents, like we sometimes are able to work for less commission until we start to have more people who we know or referrals. But I don't know, it's just like I feel like there's so much competition out there.
Well, I feel for you. And I think that when I started, it wasn't as bad as I see it now. So honestly, I thought people would tell me this in the last, 8-9 years. And I'd always think, what are you talking about? But when I went into management, I realized, oh my gosh, people are really taking some listings pretty low.
Yeah.
And, maybe because of the area that I've started in and the timing, I didn't see it. I didn't feel like I was up against that. And now I think with these newer agents, and there's so many newer agents, I do think you're going up against agents who are really going in low. And I think it's really unfortunate for our business as a whole, for everything. And so what anybody's going to tell you is that you need to prove your value when you're talking about commission. And there is a local coach, her name's Lorna Hines, and I've taken her class where she talks about, she's very adamant about 6%. I'm not saying that I'm adamant about 6%, but what I do take away from her is that you have to be able to show your value, and you have to be able to talk to the person about how an agent would be willing to take a listing for such a low commission that how are they really going to negotiate for you? If an agent's willing to come in and say, I'll do the listing for 2% or 3% or even 4%, how are they going to negotiate for you? They're going to negotiate the same way because they can't even negotiate from themselves. So it's really getting clear about your value, understanding what your bottom is, right? So some people in our area won't go under 6%. Some people are fine with 5%. We see a lot of 4%ers here. I can tell you, I've never lost out on commission, but I'm also not somebody who's adamant about 6%. That's a whole different conversation. But I think going under 5% is a real slippery slope, because if you go under 5%, then you're probably going to do it for the next person. You're probably, you got to get really clear about what you're offering And you got to get really clear with the seller that, look, I am not willing to negotiate any further. This is what I'm going to do for you. And if that agent's willing to just give it away, how are they going to stand strong for you? How are they going to negotiate for you? They're not. You know, they've already showed you their capability. And if you send me your email address, I'll send you the Lorna Hine objection. I think it's pretty good. I can't remember the exact language, but I'm happy to share it. Yeah.
I want it.
But I
Okay,
think
yeah.
I wanted to because Tatiana was
Yeah.
pretty good in explaining. So my friend, very good friend of mine, she lives in Cupertino. I'm from San Jose area. She was planning to sell her house last year. So in Cupertino, I don't know if it's the reality, but I'm feeling it could be the reality because they out loud come and give her a package for 1%, and then the other 1% for the seller's agent, and then 2.5% for the buyer's agent, which is almost 3.5%. And then she is justifying, you know what, our house will sell in a week, which it does in Cupertino, even crappy houses. And then all you need to put is a board and it will sell. So they don't want to go up on the commission. I have received 2 flyers. I mean, the marketing flyers from different agents in my area. They out loud say 1% sellers. That was like, oh my God, is this the reality?
Well, okay, so let's get creative. And this is why I'm not a manager anymore, because offering this kind of advice managers probably hate. But here's my thought about this. So if you go up against somebody who's going to do it for 3.5% and you're wanting 5%, I would say to the seller, look, I'm going to get you that 1.5% in counters. I'm going to get you more money from the client, from the buyer. And if I can't make up that 1.5% difference, then you and I will talk about, this is our plan B. I will reduce my commission down to this amount. Now, I would only do this in a seller's market, by the way. Okay. Because we know that if we price it correctly, we are going to get multiple offers. We know this. And we know that with multiple offers, we are going to counter it up and we're going to get the most amount of money for our clients. Our clients don't totally know this yet. I'm going to plug in my computer because I see it's going to die. So that's what I would do. Mr. Seller, I know that I'm going to get you the most money. So if it's, $18,000 more, I'm going to get you $18,000 more. And if I can't, then I will credit you back this portion of my commission. And you're going to put it in writing. He is going to sign it or she is going to sign it.
Okay.
That is how I would probably, if I was in your position as a new agent,
Yeah.
that's probably how I would do it. It shows that you're strong and it shows that you are going to negotiate freaking hard for your client because your commission's on the line too.
Okay. So for example, right now they are thinking that their house would, this is a real example, my own friend. So she is thinking that her house would go for 3 million. Because the next house, which was like 200 square foot low, went for a really high price. Maybe I should sit down and come up with the per square footage number and say, this is the reality. If I get you 100,000 more, would you give me 2.5%? So I put it in writing. If I don't get the 200,000 more, then I would give you 1%. Is that how you do it?
I mean, I think it gives you the opportunity. If you really think you can get the amount for her, it gives you the opportunity to play, right? It gets you at the table and it gets you this possible listing. So you have to weigh out the risk for yourself and make sure that you are looking at the numbers correctly, right? And that how fast are the houses moving in that area? What's the days on market, right?
Yeah.
All of these things you want to pay attention to while you're making that offer. But I say, why not? You know, if I think, hey, look, you know, the difference between this commission and this commission is this amount, and I can get it for you in my negotiations, why wouldn't they roll with
Okay.
you?
Well, the other thing, just out of curiosity, and I think, and Gina, your answer is great, is the other thing to think about is I would actually go into MLS and I would pull that particular brokerage and see what they are listing for and how much over asking they're getting, number one. Number two, I would look at the pictures. Chances are they're not investing a lot of money in marketing.
Yeah.
So even though you may not get the whole price difference, you are going to probably bring in more buyers because of, we all know that buyers buy the property based on the internet. They look at it in the internet first. So, you know, you're going to market the property first class and all that. And you can sell the house, but can you close the escrow? So, you know, there's a difference between putting a sign up there and getting an offer. But if you're not really educated on what makes a good offer, or, you know, like Gina said, she had a bad feeling, or this one person, she kind of went, but she took the offer, and guess what happened? It's canceled. You can figure out very quickly who is going to do what they need to do to make it happen. So just a couple other thoughts around that.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now, Gina, all yours.
No, that's, I love it, Renee. That's great information.
Can I
And-
add something?
Yes.
Actually, also, if you know, you have multiple listings and the original rate is 5% or 6%, and they try to get you to list their home for less, as a listing agent, aren't you gonna veer the buyers to the listing that is giving you more percentage? So in a way, you know, they are losing opportunity to expose their house to more buyers when they're listing for less percentage.
Elsie, I appreciate that. Do you steer your clients away from?
I wish I had that many listings to do that, but you know, every person, he's gonna, it's an action and reaction, you know. It depends how much my client is respecting my efforts. I'm gonna respect theirs as well. So if I have a listing that is giving me 6% and I can sell it to buyers that also might be interested in the other listing, who wants to negotiate 3% or 4%, I will not think about it twice. You know, both are my listings. I'm gonna give the prior opportunity to the one who is respecting my efforts, and I will veer them to the higher percentage. And whatever is left over of buyers, I'm gonna, you know, show them the other listing if I accepted to take it. This is natural. This is, you know, unless there is a special circumstance and I'm trying to help as a humanitarian effort, not as a business running. This is a different story. But this is reality.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's also an interesting thought. It's Suja, right? Is it Suja? Yeah. So I think I've heard people say that before, Elsie, and I think that's certainly something that you could talk to, that maybe there are some agents out there who will not show a house that has a lower commission to the buyer side. There was one agent, I'm not going to say his name, but he was doing a 2% buy side, 1.5, 2%, I don't know, a year ago. And he was really pissing off everybody in our county. But his whole thing was, well, buyers agents should have to negotiate, you know, their commission if they want more. He stopped doing that. I don't know why. I'm sure enough people gave him enough heat in our area, but do you guys see that in San Jose area a lot where you're seeing
Yes,
buyers?
I have a
commission?
client in Sunnyvale and he was interested in one house and the listing agent was offering 1.25%. And honestly, I didn't recommend to my client this house. Well,
That's
just because there was a lot of things without the permits, that's one
Yeah.
thing. But I did everything possible to show him something else rather than that one.
Yeah.
Because I've been working with this client for, I don't know, August since I started. And I've been looking at 1,000 houses with them already. And I am wasting my time a lot in
Yeah.
doing this. And then I will end up only with 1%. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I kind of like get what Alzi says because, well, this is our job, right? You work until you get a commission, but also you don't want to sweat, like work from morning till night, because this is what I was doing with them. Even 9 p.m. they was reaching out to me and I always was giving them my best service. And then they will end up writing an offer for like where I'm gonna have only 1%.
Yeah.
I think that's not fair. Well, they moved on. I mean, we didn't write an offer on that one, but I still think like we should also, I don't know, it's very, as I said, it's a big competition from the buyers and sellers. So listing agents are taking, you know, they are willing to work for less commission and they giving for buyer's agent low commission and it's just all mixing up.
Yeah.
Because sellers, I've been to a few presentations and they were like interviewing some other agents as well. And they showed me their paperwork. Look, this one will, you know, charge me this percentage or this one, this. And I know my house will sell for this because all of you guys give me pretty much the same home value because you guys using the same thing, you know, MLS or whatever. So I know my house will be sold for this amount. So I will go with whoever charged me less.
Yeah.
And this what happens, and they choose whoever worked for 4%, not 6.
Yeah, it's a real challenge right now. It certainly is, and I feel your guys' pain. It's certainly a tough time to get into this market and be a new agent and have to compete, especially with these companies, brokerages, agents who are coming on so low. And the best thing you can do for yourself is just figure out your value and be strong about it and be confident about it. Listen, how long did you drive around those people and did they end up buying a house?
Not yet.
So maybe time to drop them, right? So listen, that's a different conversation for a different class because we're not in a buyer's class right now.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing it took me to learn as an agent is when to let people go. And it doesn't come easy, especially if you got to make some money and you're trying to hustle and do it. But it took me longer than I wanted to even admit, but if you can figure it out sooner than later, you're better off. People can waste your time. Sellers can waste your time and buyers can waste your time. So you have to be the one who decides what that's going to look like and how much you're willing to do. So again, I'll send you guys that objection script from Lorna Hines, and you can start there with learning how to talk about, she's got a pretty good one and it's a real, it approaches it in a way I hadn't heard before. So I'll send it off and I'm happy to talk to anyone about it too. We can role play it as well. So just either send me, I'll put my email up before I leave and then you guys can just send me an email and I'll send it off. Okay. And I feel your guys' pain. I really do. I know that this is a hard industry and it's really hard right now because it's turned into, an industry where you see on TV and they're making reality TV shows about it. And it's turned into something I'm not even familiar with anymore. So it's definitely hard. But with that said, yeah, go ahead, Renee.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
With that said, it is a relationship business. Okay. So you just have to learn how to have relationships with people and how to figure out to get them to an honest place quicker than anything else. And that's just practice. Okay. So, and in every market, in any market, people need to buy and sell. We live in a very lucrative area. We live in an area where people will always buy and sell. So we are very lucky. Okay. Go ahead, Renee. I know.
What I was gonna say too, and I take this from personal experience. Once you start at a certain level of commission, it is hard to look at the next person and say, oh, by the way, I charged 4% for the previous person, but I'm gonna charge you 6.
Right.
Because then you look at them and you start saying, well, what makes this person different? So your sense of, and Tatiana, you actually used the word fairness. Your sense of fairness starts coming up and it's saying, wait a second, I charge this person, you know, X. How can I look at this next person? And I've had to struggle with that. So that's one last piece of information.
You guys, when I sold my grandmother's house in Salinas, I didn't even give my dad and uncle a break. I was like, because I knew my uncle was going to be difficult, first of all, but I was like, nope, that's my number. And I have never gone lower than 5%. I will never go lower than 5%. It's just where I'm at right now. I'm not saying it's where you need to be out, but I'm saying it's worth a conversation, and it's certainly worth coming up with the script that works for you that can start getting you some listings, even if you're going up against the discount sales agent.
So 5% when you say it's 2.5 for you and 2.5 for the
That's
buyer.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm always fair to buyers agents. It's tough out there. It comes back around, you know, I don't do all that. I think it is about fairness, and it's about treating our fellow agents fairly, and buyers agents have a tough gig right now. It's really hard out there. Okay, allow your sellers to self-discover. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. You know, I give the data to people and we have conversations, and they usually come to the same place I'm already at. But I let them come there on their own and through their questions and through showing them data. I don't come out the gate going, this is what you should do. I do get some cocky people who will say to me, well, you're the agent, you tell me a list price. Okay, fine. Well, I showed you the data and here's your range, and given your house and, you know, whatever needs to be done or not done or whatever it is, you know, this is, if it was my house, I'd probably list around here. If they are being like that, then I just kind of match them back. I just kind of match them with their saltiness and just say, fine, here you go. I do get that sometimes. I don't get it often, but sometimes I do get that. So get the right price, tell the tale of two markets: sellers markets, price versus comps, condition versus comps, and buyers market, price versus comps, conditions versus comps. Oh, okay, I see what they're saying. I don't know, you know, I don't know if I waste my, I don't know if I've ever done this where I've told the tale of two markets. I talk about the market we're in today and what is going on right now. And I say, keep it clean and keep it simple. So that's how I have it. Now, if we start to transition to a different market, I will talk about why I think we're transitioning to a different market. And I will show why I think that. So it could be an economic report. It could be data showing that houses are moving slower. I like to call agents that sold in the area and say, how many offers did you get? I'll talk about that. So I'll just talk about what I know of the market. And, you know, for savvy people, they're probably going to know it too. So, but sometimes people don't pay attention like we do, and you have to educate them. Okay, we're just going to bypass this. Let's see. Okay. The law of supply and demand. When pricing their home, sellers need to obey the law. Sellers market, a market which has more buyers than sellers. High prices result from the excess of demand over supply. High prices result from this excess of demand over supply. Buyer's market, a market which has more sellers than buyers. Higher prices result from this excess of supply over demand. I mean, that's it, right? So I know our demand is, we have little supply and a lot of demand. And because we're in a seller's market, you are seeing people reduce their commissions and sell for, list it really low and do weird stuff. When we hit into a buyer's market, it will be a more even market, and it will be a better, easier market to work in terms of having buyers. And it's going to be a little bit more difficult with sellers who haven't warmed up to the fact that our market has changed. That will happen. If you guys are still in, it will happen and you'll see it. But right now it's super challenging with everything going on for buyers. Get the right price, the law of supply and demand. How can you use MLS stats to explain the effects of supply and demand in your market? You guys, the MLS has a ton of statistics. There's a bar on top. I think it's called market stats or statistics. Click on that, play around with it. Again, you have those AccuList reports. Those are also a part of our MLS. Print them out, look around, print out the just sold. You can print them out by zip code. Print out the just sold, go drive them. If you've got a client in that price point or area, go look at them, go drive by, see where they are, see how the prices are moving in your area. Just start to educate yourself about what's going on. That's the great thing about working with buyers, is it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you really engaged in the market. If you're just working with sellers, it's not the same. It's good. I think it's good to work with both. Don't chase the market, whether the market is going up or down. You want to price your listings ahead of the market, ahead of it on the way up and ahead of it on the way down. God, that's so true. I've been in market changes where my clients and I are chasing the market, and it's awful. It's an awful feeling, and you can't get ahead of it. At least in the Santa Cruz County, and I don't think in the South Bay, it's starting to transition yet. Unless I'm wrong, if someone else has seen something different, I think we're pretty still in a strong seller's market. So we'll see what the summertime brings with inflation stuff. Manage your listings in a buyer's market. Okay, well, we're not quite in a buyer's market yet. And I think all of these things you should still be doing even in a seller's market. I always tell people to communicate more than less. Over communicate with your clients. Let them know how many people have seen their house, how many views they're getting online. If it's a fast moving market, then you might want to do it every couple of days. Keep people engaged in what you're doing, because they don't know what you're doing. Even if you've told them 20,000 times what the process is going to look like, they still don't know. So I will over communicate with sellers, especially my sellers who are fragile and in a weird situation. I really over communicate with them. I will tell them every time a showing happens. Hopefully the agent gives me feedback. If they don't, I'll say I didn't get any feedback from the agent, or here's the agent feedback. I use, what are they called now? Homelight, I guess, Disclosures.io. And I know exactly the viewers of the packet and how many people have downloaded. I give all of this information to my sellers. So I'm overly communicating at all times with them. And I think that's good to do. You can send, some people have email templates that they just fill this stuff out and they send it once a week. You could do something like that. I'll say, oh, this is how many views on Zillow. This is, how much on HomeSnap. This is whatever tools I'm using. I'll give them that information so they know. I'll check in. If there's been a couple of days of no communication with anything, I'll just check in and let them know, there's been no communication with any agents. There's been no, whatever it is, I'll just let them know. So, because they don't know and they want to know.
Gina?
Yeah.
Also recently, Zach had brought up the fact that on our agent website, if we have our clients register on our website, they could get notifications. I haven't done it yet to see it myself, but clients can get notifications through registering on the agent's website
Oh,
on
that's
the
awesome.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done it or looked into it, but that's an additional feature that keeps clients up to date.
That's
I think
awesome.
I think it's transaction status.
And you guys, on that note, thanks, Denise. I think it's good to register yourself for any, like, I'll go to the MLS and I'll put new listings 95066. And so every time they come up, they hit me almost like if I had done that for a client, because I kind of want to see what they're seeing, you know, like how does the information come to them? What does it look like? You know, how are they seeing it from the other end? So that's a good point, Denise. Like, go to your website if you're using the websites and register yourself and see how the information comes to you if you can. I have my own website. That's why I don't know, but that's a good point, Denise. Thank you. Manage your listings in a buyer's market. Okay, overpriced listings. So that still happens in a seller's market too, right? Everybody has data. Sometimes they go on overpriced. What are we going to do? We are going to manage expectations, and we're going to have that conversation with our sellers that if it doesn't sell at a certain time, we are going to reduce the price. Okay, that's it. If you overly communicate during this process, when you get to the point that you have to reduce the price, it's going to be a lot easier than if you didn't communicate really at all what was going on. So that's another thing to think about. Manage your listings in a buyer's market. Schedule your reductions. We talked about that. Get into the next bracket. Get into the next bracket. Do you know what that means? I don't know what that means. Get into the next bracket. Keep carrying costs low. Mind your language. Know when to call it quits. Wow. Okay, well, so let's talk about that for a minute. I don't know what it means, get into the next bracket, maybe price bracket.
Does the side arrow expand it at all? See that little side arrow? Does that do anything?
No, it just
No.
goes
Okay.
no.
All right.
No, it is putting them in the next bracket. So
Price bracket.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Keeping your carrying costs low. The carrying. Okay. So I guess we can talk about staging here, you know, and stagers will have a certain time frame where they need to remove their stuff, or it's going to cost you more money. You want to keep that in mind when you're doing a price reduction. Be careful about your language when we're talking about the price reduction. Be careful about offending people with their house and why it might not have sold. We know that it's either price or marketing, right? Okay, well, we know we did good marketing. We know we did because we did all of the marketing we were supposed to do. So it's the price. And I would keep it very professional and just talk about the price, not, oh, well, people don't, they think that your kitchen's so ugly, right? Or they're not liking, you got to be careful with how you're talking. People are so sensitive and you've got to be very careful with the language that you're using with people. You want to be honest, but you want to be sensitive. And so I would always keep it to marketing or price. And if it's my marketing's there and it's showing that it's there and I'm communicating with you, how many people have seen it, what I've done, I did everything I said I was going to do, then it's price and we need to reduce the price. And we go from there. So, and then if they are,
in this scenario, how would you bring this topic and talk?
I've already brought it up. Remember, Suja, because before the listing agreement got signed, we talked about all of this stuff. And I said, okay, they really want to go on at this high amount. And I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of a stretch. Okay, but I'll do it, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller. But if it doesn't sell for that price in 3 weeks, we are going to lower the price to this amount. Okay. And they are going to agree to it because I'm not going to waste my time. Right. So they
So
agree.
do you put it in the contract itself or just a verbal?
Yes. You can
Okay.
put it on an addendum, or you can just put it into the listing agreement. Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, if we get to that time frame and they say, no, I don't want to do it, right? Can we really enforce it? I mean, I don't know. No. So you just say, well, guess what? Then you have to decide, do you still want to do it? Do you still want to keep marketing this place? Do you still want to spend your time on it? Because maybe you think, I don't want to. And that's when you know to call it quits. Or maybe you've reduced the price and it's still not selling, and these people are abusive and they're hard to deal with. Maybe you just want to walk away and say, this isn't working anymore. And that's a different space for everybody, right? We all have different levels of being able to handle levels of abuse. So you have to decide what works for you.
You can refer them to another agent for 25%.
Yeah. And you might, and they honestly, right, you know, here's the deal. And I hate to say this, but sometimes people work better with men, or sometimes they work better with women, or some, you know, so it's not a bad idea to say, hey, this isn't working, and I've got this other agent who I think is going to work really well for you, and pass them on and get the 25%. And you'd be surprised when you let go of the fear of not making the commission and you get rid of it, more opportunity does come your way. It happens all the time. So, because until you get away from it and separate it, you don't realize how much time and energy you're spending on it. And then when you step away and hand it off to somebody else, it's unbelievable. And all of a sudden you have all this extra time and you get more different people and people to work with. It really does help. So unfortunately for someone like me, I had to get beat up pretty bad a couple of times mentally before I learned that lesson, but I finally learned it. So don't do what I did. Learn it quicker. Manage your listings in a buyer's market. Auction your listings. Create desire for your listings by marketing well-priced and staged properties as coming soon. Well, that's true in a seller's market too, right? We have that great coming soon feature on the MLS, and especially in a seller's market, because ours are moving so fast, you can actually put it on, you know, a week ahead of time or 2 weeks ahead of time, and even build up more buzz and interest on the coming soon. Which is helpful because they do move so quickly. Have your property inspected and staged. Finally, Santa Cruz County has gotten to this place where people are doing full disclosure packages like you guys do in the South Bay, and offering a full disclosure package with inspections before the offer date. And we are still, I mean, for us, staging, that's a whole different topic. You know, when I came from the East Bay, every single house was beautiful, staged, and presented nicely, and vacant. When I came to Santa Cruz County, it was a very different thing over here. And sometimes we have them staged, sometimes we have them partially staged, and sometimes they're not staged at all. So it's just kind of a mixed bag over here. But I think in the South Bay, is it pretty staged over there, you guys? Is every house pretty staged, or is it kind of mixed? Anybody know? No?
I think it's mixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And probably in the different price points, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Higher price points show, okay. They probably show a little bit better. Okay. So that just depends, you know, in your
I have
area.
a comment. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
I-
Denise, go ahead.
Okay, I went on a home tour, broker tour. Oh, it was a few weeks ago, and it was a house in Santa Cruz. I don't remember the address, but it was a house that they had made repairs to it, and
Mhm.
it was fabulously staged.
Okay.
Fabulously staged. And on the way up the steep steps, there was a crawl space door, and you know, I'm in tune to all that stuff. I opened it and there were rat droppings all over the insulation. And then I went upstairs and I saw some other things, and there were like, it was like a labyrinth of a house. But you could
Yeah.
see that there were still repairs. They painted over things.
Yeah.
But they must have paid a lot of money for the staging to make the house seem like it was better than what it was.
Yeah. Well,
Isn't it lipstick on a pig?
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
important to look past the staging. Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes people do staging to have you avoid looking at anything else. That's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it happens, it's a hodgepodge out here for sure. It's a hodgepodge. So
Yeah.
that's where it's important to be able to look at disclosures and really know what you're looking for.
I had some clients that were saying that they prefer not staged because they can see their furniture, their style in the house, in the empty house that they're looking at, rather than just lose that image that
Yeah.
they are seeking to have for their future yes or no decision on that place.
Well, they sound smart because that's actually a really good strategy. So I think it's better to see a house unstaged too, but I'll tell you, as a selling agent, as a listing agent, staging always helps, brings in more offers. It just does. A lot of people they need that to be able to see past maybe what's in that house currently. So, but man, yeah, if you get buyers who would prefer the unstaged houses, that's good. Manage your listings in a buyer's market. Let's see, learn about the seller concessions and real estate financing concepts that create a competitive edge. Learn about the seller concessions. Okay, so again, in any market, we are managing our clients' expectations. So in a buyer's market, we're going to talk about what the buyer might be asking for as a credit or a price reduction during their inspection contingency. Because in a buyer's market, we will see more inspection contingencies. In a seller's market, you guys are a little bit probably more used to it. We just started getting used to it the last couple of years in our county, but I don't think I wrote one offer last year that wasn't contingency free. So I think we're getting a little closer to coming back to having some inspection contingencies, but we're still seeing a lot of contingency free offers made. And so we're just talking to our sellers about what type of offers we might see, what contingencies we might see, and that goes for a buyer's or a seller's market. Work closely with a trusted loan officer who is knowledgeable about the details. So when people make an offer on my listings, I vet them. I vet the lenders. I try to get as much information I can about the buyer and where they're at in the loan process. Lenders who are local understand that, and they give me the information that I'm seeking. If a lender is not local and they're coming from a different area, sometimes it's a little harder to get that information. If I am working a different area than Santa Cruz County, I will tell my buyers to get a local lender. I do not have them use a Santa Cruz County lender because I'm comfortable with it. I think it's better for them to have a local lender. Now, sometimes when you get the higher worth clientele, they come with their own team of people and they will use who they want. And that's a different topic. But for, just the average person, I think having a local person is better. So, and I think listing agents think that as well. The people who fell out of contract, the one that I referred to before, the buyer was from over the hill and he had a Wells Fargo lender, and I don't think he has a relationship with them. The appraiser is an old timer local guy that came in, and I met him at the house, and he was having a very hard time with the appraisal, and Wells Fargo was giving him a very hard time about certain information. So even if it hadn't fall out because the buyer wanted out, I'm thinking we were going to have some appraisal issues, which there should be no reason this house wouldn't have appraised. That every single comp around it supports it. But the appraiser was, I think he lacked some experience. And then I didn't know, I had no contact with the lender. It was just Wells Fargo. So it was kind of weird. It was a weird situation, but you know, you live and learn, and that's why we like working with local people. They have more skin in the game. The bottom line, there may be no single factor more important to getting home sold than its price. Your local expertise and market knowledge are the key to getting your sellers to price their homes to sell. Let the numbers do the heavy lifting. Arm yourself with the facts and figures and use formulas and graphs to explain the current market to your sellers. Well, we talked about that, and we all agree that that's correct. My action plan. Don't put away this guide without developing a plan to put what you have learned into action. Okay, we don't need to go over that. Take some other shifts. Is there another slide? Or is this it, Renee? Let me see if there's one more. I think there's a staging slide, right, guys? Let's see. Staging strategies. Okay, so when you're in a county like ours, you guys, with staging, oftentimes people can't move out of their house so that we can get it fully staged. And so you have to get a little creative. I don't talk specifics about staging or decluttering until I have built a pretty good relationship with the seller. The reason being is that they're fragile, or that they're really sensitive about their stuff, or they think their stuff is amazing and that everyone's going to love it. So what I do is I get the listing agreement signed, I build some rapport, and then I come back in and I walk through the house and I give them items to go to for decluttering. Put into boxes, put into the garage if they can. I have them take down all personal pictures. I have them declutter closets, and I have them, even if they're willing, to declutter some of their drawers and stuff like that, because as we know as agents, the less is more when it comes to staging. We do have some stagers in our area that will do partial stages. Sometimes I lean on that. And, you know, sometimes it's, on this listing that I had before, they had no money. And so I had to put in some of my own money to do some of the repairs and get it to kind of showing quality. I don't suggest that for everybody, but I do think that that's being offered more than not. So when you're competing against somebody, you might be competing against an agent who says, I'll pay for staging, I'll pay for this, I'll pay for that. You have to decide what it is you're comfortable with, the risk for the house and for getting paid back. I would never put money into a house unless the motivation was super high to move. Because you might not get your money back and it's really hard to enforce. So yeah, let's jump into the slides, but that's just my little bit of information on that. Perspective on staging, benefits of staging. I do talk to people about the benefits. If they are moving out of the house and we can stage it and it makes sense to stage it, then I'm going to stage it. I think the $4,000 to $6,000 that you're paying for staging will pay off for the people who have a hard time seeing past it. So we know the benefits of staging. Staging is your ticket to getting your listing sold. In a shifting market, there's more competition than ever. Your listings must stand out. Here's another thing. I always treat listings as an opportunity to get the next listing. It's like my resume, right? So if I have a staged house with really pretty pictures, it's going to show so well when I go to that next listing presentation, because I can show them these really beautiful pictures and it beautifully staged. They look better. It says staging is non-negotiable in many parts of the country. Okay, I'll believe that. Agents like great looking homes. They are easier to sell. Buyers are looking for value. Staging enhances your reputation as an agent. I agree with all of that. I also think sometimes you can get some weird, funky houses, and staging can really help show kind of a layout that might work for the funky house. Okay, we're going to pass up these career growth stuff. Convincing your sellers to stage. Well, I guess you have to decide, are you going to pay for staging, or are you going to have your sellers pay for staging? I do not have a rule on this. It depends on who I'm talking to and how much competition I have for the listing. It depends on if the sellers have any monies to get their house ready for market. I mean, it really depends for me. And that's the kind of information I can sometimes get out of that first conversation. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes it takes me a couple conversations to get to it. I need to see the house. I need to see what I'm working with. And I need to know what the sellers are doing. Are they staying in the house? Are they moving? You know, all of that stuff comes into play when I'm deciding about staging. So there have been times that I've paid for staging, and there have been times that I have not, and that I won't. So I've just decided about the risk value of it.
Gina, one of the things I would suggest is if you do pay for staging, that you include in the listing agreement that should they not close escrow with you, they will pay you back for the staging.
How do you
Or
enforce
something.
that though?
I know, but at least they'll know that if they
Scare 'em.
decide to go with, yeah. Because otherwise, you know, anyway, yeah.
So Renee, that's a good tactic. Certainly put it in. I know as a manager, that's almost impossible to enforce, but they don't know that.
Right,
So,
right. It's all about getting them on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, you're doing a real service to them by paying for it if you can afford to, and you can do that. I mean, that's a big deal, and they need to know that's a big deal. I know that some top listing agents in our county pay for it every time. They'll pay for the inspections. They pay, you know, they'll pay for it all. And so once you get to know your competition, you can kind of know, okay, I'm going up against that person, and I know that they're going to offer all those things. So, you know, you have to decide if you want to offer those things or not too.
Hopefully they're going to offer it at 6%.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, right? If you're paying for all that stuff, then it's at 6%. Absolutely. For sure. Also, another thing to think of when you have sellers out of the area who don't live here, they want you to do everything for them, by the way. So keep that in mind. And really that's going to beat out the competition. A 1%er is never going to do the stuff you're going to do. I have won over listings because the discount agent wasn't going to do everything they needed. And they came back to me and said, you're going to take care of it all. Go ahead and have it. And I prefer it that way, honestly, because I'm a control freak and I don't want other people decide. I love to just get it myself and figure it out and get it staged and get it pretty and get it on the market without anyone having, I don't want to consult with people. So it works better for me too, but you just have to decide who you're dealing with and, you know, what their motivation is, their strategy, what are they doing? Where are their next steps? Convincing your sellers to stage, again, that's, you got to gauge the conversation and what county you're in and what area and if it makes sense. But convincing people to stage sometimes can be challenging. Most people in the Bay Area seem to understand why people stage. You can show them houses that are staged and houses that are not. You can do things like that to convince them. You can show them price points and stuff like that. It usually does fetch more money if it's staged or if they have an awkward layout, you know, stuff like that. You can talk to them about staging for those reasons. I'm sure there's scripts and dialogues around staging. I've never looked at them, but if you Google that, I'm sure you can find it. Yeah, that's a good one. See with your buyer's eyes. You can talk about how you work with buyers and how they see staged homes versus not staged homes. That's an easy conversation. Options for staging consultation. Do it yourself. Well, okay, listen. So if the people are living there and they're going to declutter for me, like this one house I had, I literally brought them fresh towels for their bathrooms, fresh towels for the kitchen, some new area rugs. I brought some flowers. I mean, I paid for that. It was about $500, whatever. Here you go. It made them feel good. It made the pictures look better, and they didn't have the money to do it. So, you know, to me, it was totally worth it. You can get different bids from stagers. We have quite a few now over here. God, when I first got over here, there was only like 2. Now there's like 6 in Santa Cruz County. So, you know, you can get different bids and stuff. I had a house on West Cliff, oceanfront, and I was trying to use a new stager, and she was kind of loosey-goosey in the way she operated. Beautiful stuff. But I ended up using this other stager who was really type A, listed out everything and every price, because my client is an engineer and he wanted it that way. He wanted to see it that way. And so she was more money, but we ended up going with her because of the way she presented. So it just depends. You got to know your clients. Figuring out staging, it's pretty basic, you guys. When you go into a house and say that they're not going to stage, say they don't have the money for it and you're not going to pay for it either, you can do those small little things to help a house present a little bit better. Fresh towels in the bathrooms. You can do plants. You can do area rugs. You can do welcome mats at the door. I mean, flowers go a long way, right? You can do all these little things to just zhuzh up the house a little bit, make it feel a little bit better. I bought throne pillows for a bachelor once for his couch, and I brought in a different couple of feminine colors because he was so like black, white, and gray. There's just certain things you can do to make it look a little bit better. And I feel like clients who don't have the money appreciate it, and it doesn't cost a lot of money for you to do it. So you can do things like that. You know, the rules about giving curb appeal. You know, you can paint a front door, you can get a front door replaced, you can add some flowers, get it de-weeded. There's just things you can do that don't cost a ton of money. I've done it myself on some houses, especially when I didn't have a lot of money. Just go out and do some of this stuff myself. And get it ready for pictures and to show. And I mean, it just depends on what you want to do, but you can do things for people if they're struggling to help them get their house show better. So keep that in mind. Train your employee. Well, we don't have employees at this price, right? Train your employees to do it. We're new agents here. We don't have employees. So we're going to skip some of that. Sometimes if you get a stager who's newer to the market or who's just started staging, they might get paid out of escrow. So that's sometimes you can work with stagers in that way. So that's something to keep in mind because they want pictures and they want the client to, they're just starting out. Learning people's reputation in our business is pretty easy these days with online reviews and people showing their stuff on Instagram. And so you can learn their reputation or just asking around the office. You can get referrals pretty easily. If you have a client that's just kind of stubborn, you can always take them to 2 different listings, one that's staged, one that's not. Let them have a feel. It's a pretty easy way to turn someone into being appreciative of staging. Stagers in our area will typically go out for free and give you a bid. I don't know how it is in the South Bay. I suspect there's probably some people like that too. So, and I know in our area, and Renee, you may have felt this too, stagers were getting really booked up last year fast. I mean, it was hard to even get them. I actually did a co-listing with an agent from over the hill in the Los Gatos office, and she actually turned me on to virtual staging, which actually worked really well. And it was a quarter of the price. So you can always get some virtual staging ideas and bring that to your client too. Or maybe they have a pretty cute house, but they have a really funky room. You can actually virtually stage that for very minimal cost. And we did that and it worked really well. And you just put in your disclosure, I think we put it in the private remarks that some of the rooms were virtually staged. It actually worked really well. It was kind of cool. So that's another idea. We talked about this, evaluating the house, right? You want to go see the house and see if it makes sense or not, and what makes sense for their house. Not everything is cookie cutter. When you review a house, right? So remember when I talked about, you get that listing appointment and you walk in and I say, walk me around your house, right? You have to think to yourself, as you walk into the house, how do you feel? Is there a smell that's hitting you? Is there a look to it that's bothering you? Is there something that's catching your eye? All of these things, you have to put yourself into a buyer's shoes, that if they walked into the house, how are they experiencing it? We all know curb appeal is a big deal. It is a big deal. You want your curb appeal to look good if it can. Sometimes there's only a little bit of things you can do to make it look good. And sometimes it's already phenomenal. You know, it just depends on what type of house and clientele you're dealing with. Less is more. So when I'm editing a house and I have that second appointment and I'm editing a house, I am having them get rid of a lot of things, like a lot of extra pieces of furniture, a lot of pictures, just pack up as much as they're willing to do, because it's going to look better. If a wall needs to be painted, if wallpaper needs to be taken down and they do have the money for that, then we'll do certain things like that. In a seller's market, you do want everything to look good and appear good, but you have to be careful with how much money you're telling people to spend into, hold on one second, you guys. Sorry, this is the when you work at home with your husband, you want to make sure that it's going to pay off, right? Most remodels are not going to pay off. So you need to just make sure that you're advising your clients the right way. In a seller's market, we can get away with some things that we might not be able to get away with in a buyer's market. I also tell people too at a listing, so we come up with the list price, we've agreed on it, they've signed the listing they've signed the listing agreement. And then I say, well, now we're going to get our inspections, and this could change the price, right? It could change the price. If there's any major ticket items on there, then we'll disclose it. We may get it repaired, we may not, and we'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. Things that are easy for staging, recaulking a tub. It's so easy, and you can have a handyman do it, or you can do it yourself if you have an older client or someone who can't do it. That's an easy thing. Getting the house professionally cleaned is another thing. Getting the windows cleaned. Changing out light fixtures. That's an easy thing to do. Changing out handles might be something that you do. Those are all pretty easy things to do. And if you can't do them, a handyman can do them. I know our handyman are pretty booked up, but you should be able to figure that out. Ask somebody in your family, ask a friend, a neighbor, someone who's handy to help you. But just changing out some of that stuff can really go a long way. Cleaning it up, decluttering is such a big deal when you're going on market. I love this part. Make your recommendations and give a calendar. People need calendars. If you're going to be kind of acting as the project manager for this, then I would go in at a higher commission. If they're going to do everything, they're just going to take your recommendations and do everything, then maybe, you know, you're giving a lower commission. You have to decide. Sellers get busy. We all have busy lives. So you want to make sure you're checking in. If they're going to be doing all these things on your task list, you want to just make sure you're checking in to make sure they're getting it done. And if they're not getting it done and they seem stressed out, you might want to step in and say, hey, let me do it for you. At the very least, you're going to show some pretty amazing customer service and probably get a really good review. Your overall considerations and implementation: declutter, clean, maintain, and repair, and create an atmosphere. That's true. So, simple staging, consultation versus extensive services. Remove clutter, clean, paint, rearrange furniture. Okay, sure, that's simple. Rent furniture and plants, you know, I guess you could do this. You know, we sold a house. We had an income property in Oakland and we sold it and all the stagers were so booked up at the time. This is a couple of years ago. And there was a online furniture rental company for staging. We paid like $2,000 and they came in and staged the whole little condo for us. And it was really simple and it really paid off and it was easy. So there's things like that that are really cool that are kind of hitting our market. You know, you can look for alternative ways to get a place staged if you've offered to pay for it and you're trying to keep your costs down. But, you know, sometimes you just got to roll up your sleeves and put in some of the heavy work when you're new. And I've been known when I was new to go into places and paint myself, you know, bring in my partner, have him help me, bring in people, you know, just getting it done. So, because once you get it done and you get it on the market, you're good at sold, you know, it will pay off. Yeah. Overall considerations. So keeping food areas and litter boxes clean. Yeah, I mean, so that's all, you know, that's a whole thing that you have to, again, manage expectations with your clients, figure out what they're dealing with. And then some clients will be totally open to an open house or a broker's tour. And some clients are like, no, appointment only. And I need 4-hour notice because I have small kids and pets and we need to get them out of the house. So these are just conversations you're going to have with your sellers before you even hit the market. Make the first good impression. We talked about this stuff, you know, welcome out, potted plants. Well, you can't really repair cracks in paving. I'm not sure I would do all that. Clean windows though, bring in a house cleaner for them. You know, it's $500. That's easy. Have checklists for people, right? I love using Google Suite, Google Docs. You can share your docs with people. It's pretty easy. You can make your checklists that way. Decluttering, maybe people need help. Maybe they need boxes. Maybe they need help getting a storage unit. You know, find out what they're dealing with and what they need help with and figure out ways to help solve the problems. Create an atmosphere. I don't know, if I see if I see a water feature, I know that they're trying to hide road noise. If I see candles lit or like smells, they're trying to hide a pet smell. So just think about that stuff. Sometimes you just want the house to appear the way it should appear and how it is so that you get the right buyer. Keep up appearances. Well, you know, in a seller's market, these are moving so fast that it's, you know, 1 week of hell and then we usually get an offer. In a buyer's market, yeah, you're going to have to manage expectations and talk about how this could go on for a couple weeks and that they need to keep their house looking good. Why stage an empty house? Don't leave rooms empty when selling a house. Empty houses lead buyers to question why the house is vacant. I don't think that this is true. I think this is a little dusty. Size is difficult to visualize when a room is empty sometimes, and sometimes it's not. Without furnishings, buyers will get bogged down in negative details. I don't know if this is totally relevant anymore. But again, if you do have a funky layout in a house, you certainly do want probably some staging to help with that layout so people can visualize what it could look like. But an empty house, I think an empty house sells in a seller's market. In a buyer's market, maybe you want to do a little bit of staging here and there, or at least staging in one of the main rooms. You can leave the other rooms empty or something like that. Okay. Oh, look at this. Staging is not about trying to put lipstick on a pig. That's the bottom line. Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. So it just depends on the house you're looking at. And as you get more savvy and look at more houses, you will start to see when people are trying to disguise things and when people are not. So you'll get to know, you'll get a sense. Scripts, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think that's true. Can't we sell the house as is? Well, you certainly can in a seller's market, but you still might fetch less money than if it was looking better. So that's a conversation you have to have. We're moving out. Why should we spend any more money on this house? Well, that's when you decide if you want to spend the money or not. If you can't convince them to. Okay, so I think
can't you advise them that when they spend the money, they're gonna get full more in a seller's market?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely, right? So again, we go back to those other screens where it says, look, we can get you more money with staging. Now, they still might say no. They still might say, no, I don't want to put the money in. And then you decide as an agent, well, maybe you want to put the money in because you're like, God, I know it's going to get more money if we stage this place. And I've made that decision before too. So you really just have to decide who you're talking to. If you really try hard to get and convince them that it's the way to go, but they're still saying no, then again, you might just want to pay for it yourself. You have to decide, and you have to look at your different comps in the area that you're in.
I see.
Yeah, but it's interesting to be in the market over here because like most of you have seen some houses over here. It's a real mixed bag. So, every house is different and every person's different. And you just have to figure out who you're dealing with, what kind of money they have. That is a conversation I have too. When I first walk through the house, I give compliments, I take notes, and then we sit down and I ask, so what kind of budget do you have to get your house ready for market? Just ask the question. Some people will go, oh, I don't have anything, or yeah, we have about 10 grand, or we have about 5 grand. Okay, great. And then we just keep the conversation going and go from there. If their motivation is super high, like I said, and the house is vacant, I probably would put some money towards staging myself, because I do believe staging does help. So I think you get more buyers out of it. But any other questions about staging or thoughts? Okay, you guys, I'm going to put in the chat my email. Feel free to email me and I will send you that dialogue I talked about with commission. My name is Gina. And, if you want to have any conversations about any of this outside of this class, I'm totally open. Just feel free to reach out, and I'm here. I know it's a tough gig right now to be a new agent. So I feel for you, and I'm happy to help any way I can. Okay. And I appreciate you guys showing up, and I know we're going to have a good year this year. It's going to be like last year. So.
Thank you.
I don't see your email. You just typed it, but I don't see it in the chat.
Okay, let me do it.
I put my email in the chat, but I see that, but I haven't seen that.
Gina did direct message to me.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
See, look at you guys. I told you I'm not great at this. Okay, here we go. There you go. Thanks, Tatiana. Okay, I think everyone has my email now, GinaOdom@gmail.com. And yeah, send me an email and I'll send you that script. Okay, you guys, and have a great year, and I'll see you around, and good luck out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.